Thank you so much, the fantastic Zeena Shah, for joining us on day 2 of our At Home with Homestart chats.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait.
It's the second time I've seen your flat in lockdown.
I know it is, isn't it?
Because your other half came very kindly on the Lockdown Craft Show. And, you've got it there. Look.
One of his wire creations.
The wire creation, the wire penguin. You must be the most crafty house in Britain.
We definitely do love a bit of crafting.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. And thank you so much for saying yes to this, because it's fantastic for Homestart. It's lovely for all the people who follow Homestart on YouTube, and hopefully we're going to get some new followers and new people understanding about Homestart's work. Zeena, how many times have we worked together on one of the craft shows?
Oh God, I don't even know. That's a really good question. I mean, maybe 5. Quite a few times, yeah.
You've done judging on the Christmas show, haven't you?
I have, and we did the very first Notting Hill vintage home. Do you remember that?
Oh, that was such a long time ago. Zeena, is that how long I've known you?
That's when I first met you. Yes.
Gordon Bennett, that was a long time.
I know. I think it was 8 years ago, dare I say it?
It was, because do you know what? I have got the window. We had that window painted and they cut out some glass. I've got it framed on our staircase here. And it was a long time ago. And in fact, I've got the Kirstie's from Kirstie's Vintage Home in my office. But the Wi-Fi is not good enough for my office to do that from there. So I'm sitting here. Yesterday I was sitting cross-legged on the floor because we only discovered about the bad Wi-Fi at the last minute.
I did see that. But it's real life. Everyone's got internet issues at the moment.
Everyone has got internet issues at the moment. You have to bellow through the house. No watching of Netflix. I'm doing my Homestart thing.
Hopefully they're behaving today.
Hopefully everyone's behaving today. Now, Zeena, obviously you're going to do a mask for us, which is why you've got your sewing machine out. But what other projects have you been working on during lockdown?
Oh gosh, so many things actually. So Zach and I are getting married next year, so we've been doing lots of invitations.
I didn't know that. Congratulations! That's fantastic news.
Yeah, really excited.
News. That's really something. Well, it's good because some relationships don't make it through lockdown, do they?
Well, you win some, you lose some.
So
luckily.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you
and
so much.
Are you putting together stuff for that?
We are. So I've been drying, we're making our own confetti. So I've been drying flowers that we've just been buying just to bring joy during this time. Just been grabbing, supermarket flowers and ordering them online, and local florists have all started selling flowers and delivering locally, which is amazing. So I've been kind of keeping those because they're so precious at the moment, just laying them out on some tissue paper to dry. And then a few days later, they're confetti. And then you store them in an airtight container. And they last a year.
Brilliant. That is fantastic.
It's so good. I have to get my jar and show you how much we've got.
Make your own confetti. So when I first was chatting to Homestart about doing this, it was very interesting because obviously the work that Homestart do is with vulnerable families, and their volunteers go out and give people those much needed moments of calm, that, whether it's helping in the home, going in for an afternoon, giving someone some time off. And at the moment, the big thing is being able to deliver packages of what people need: nappies, baby milk, food, activities for the kids. If you're self-isolating with 3 small children in a flat with no outside space, you have had a pretty miserable time over the last few weeks, and it's been really, really tough. And that's where Homestart have really come into their own, more than ever, really. And so when I spoke to lovely Anita at Homestart, and I said, what can I do? And she said, well, I think it would be nice to do something on YouTube and just have a few chats with with the people that you talk to usually in the craft? And everyone said yes, which was really kind. And thank
Of
you so much.
course, it's such a great cause.
And it's great because it's a sort of fantastic way of communicating with the Homestart volunteers and the Homestart people who follow Homestart, hopefully getting some new followers of Homestart and raising some funds. So I've just got to say in the very beginning, the Just Giving page is all the details of the Just Giving page are at the bottom. They're kind of below me and below Zeena. If you're enjoying watching our kind of live crafting evening, then give what you can, which would be fantastic. And behind me, I've got the Homestart banner, which I'm keeping. I'm thrilled with it. So Zeena, what are you doing this evening?
So I was going to make scrunchies, but actually making face masks is a much better idea because, of course, we're all going to need to wear one. It's protecting others. Have you got a face mask, Kirstie?
Well, I happen to know I have got a not very nice sort of disposable face mask, which goes against everything I believe and also goes against my keep Britain tidy principles. So I'm telling you the truth because that's what one should always do, is try and tell you the truth. But I do need to get going, and I want to have some face masks to match some of my dresses, and I've got some pieces of fabric in the attic, and also I need to make some for the boys because I've got 2 sons and 2 stepsons, and I don't think a Liberty print face mask is going to
go down all that well.
No. So I've got some old shirts of Ben's, and I thought I might cut some of those up, but I need to see you do the technique for making the mask.
Absolutely. I don't think I've ever not seen you in a beautiful printed gown, so I can't imagine you with a boring mask.
This is the same dress I was wearing yesterday. I'm trying to do this thing on lockdown of making everything last for 2 days.
That's a good idea.
It's just piles of laundry.
It gets out of control, doesn't it? Ours just keeps growing out of nowhere. Maybe I should adopt that. Okay, shall I start taking you through?
Will you? Thanks, Zeena.
Yeah. Okay, so this is one I've made earlier. So very simple. And what I've done is I've added some pleats so that it sort of fits around your nose. And I've obviously gone for a very fun, bright printed fabric because, you know, it's a fashion statement more than anything, isn't it? We can make it fashion. And I've also added some really fun lilac elastic to mine. Now I've started with a very simple rectangle of fabric. So I've cut a couple of pieces here. And again, you could print that, you could tie-dye that, you could use an old t-shirt, you could use an old shirt, like you say, recycle.
Yeah. And what would you say the size of that is approximately?
So it is, I've got it down exactly. So it's 25 centimeters by 15.
Right.
So 25 long and then 15. But you can also just like roughly hold it up. So I'd say for children, I do it a bit smaller. You probably want 20 by 10. Because what you're going to do is you're going to fold it over and just create some seams on the ends just to hide away any of those raw edges. So you want it to be so it'll actually be smaller once you've stitched it up.
Right.
So this is one that I've done. Hopefully you can see that, but you fold over the edge. And what I always do is just use an iron to fold it over and press it in place.
Then I've just the number one tool, isn't it? Whether you're hand stitching or machine stitching,
absolutely,
ironing makes the world of difference.
Honestly, yeah.
We had a problem when we were doing the craft show in that we were filming with the social distancing, so there wasn't a protocol for me to stand up and move to the ironing board. So
God,
I was doing it on the show was and it was driving me crazy.
Oh God, yeah, no, I'd highly recommend ironing just because it will give you a really clean line and then it won't bounce back up and it's really easy to sew. So you're going to fold over all of your edges just into the middle. So there's always a wrong side and a right side of your fabric. This is plain, so it's not so helpful. But for example, if it was a patterned one, this is the right side because you want your print on the front, and the opposite is the wrong side because you want it facing you and inwards. I was going to say that the best fabric to use actually is a silk and cotton mix because apparently they absorb or sort of dispose of the droplets of anything not so nice. So top tip.
Silk and cotton mix. But if you've got, so if I was going to use some old shirts, for example, I'd want to go for fine cotton.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Double it up, maybe?
Yes. Yeah, you could do a lining, you could double it up. You can actually be quite clever and create a little window, a little pocket to pop a little piece of viscose to just absorb, and then you can take it out and wash it.
Right.
So it's quite clever. So you can be really, really complicated. I've gone for a very simple technique this evening. Just a single,
you can do.
Yeah, single layer. And actually what I've done with mine is I've added some pleats, just so that you can then, so it fits around your nose a bit better. And the elastic length I've gone for is 22 centimeters. So it's a little bit longer, because do you ever see when people's ears get pulled out by a slightly short elastic?
Yes, absolutely.
So rather than it being too tight, I've gone a bit more, have a bit more room, basically. So it's a bit more flattering.
Now we've got some, we've got hi from Granny Caroline.
Oh.
Which is always good to know. And then we've got Rosie Webben says evening, and Carol Gardner says hi everyone. And then our lovely Molly sent me a note saying she's experienced some masks which make it difficult to breathe. So probably a good idea to, before you stitch it or even cut it, I mean, obviously don't go to a shop and breathe into a piece of fabric. It's best to try and use anything you've got at home, but perhaps do a bit of a breathing test to see whether it would be easy to breathe, and particularly if you're doubling up.
I think so too, and I think the lighter weight fabrics really help with that as well, because they'll let the air in as well as protect you.
Because obviously a mask isn't so effective if you're permanently having to take it down to either to breathe or to speak. So you probably don't want your speaking to be so muffled.
No, and that's the problem. Actually, I've chatted to a few people in our kind of, we've got a communal garden, and they've got these really heavy masks, and I can't hear a word they're saying, and I just sort of nod along as if I can understand the conversation, but it's very awkward. So yeah, I'd say a lighter weight fabric is the way to go with that.
So we've just been asked, do you have any ideas for fitting around the nose?
Absolutely. So what I've used, so how I've done it with my one is a pinch and fold technique. So you'll see there are some pleats in here. And I'll sort of try and show you on here. But what you're going to do is about 1 centimeter. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to pinch. It's hard doing it, right? Isn't it? So I'm going to pinch and fold. So I've got a pleat across the center of the fabric. So you're going to repeat that 3 times across the center. And that just gives you a bit more of a diamond shape, so that it adjusts over your nose a bit more easily. The other thing you could do is, instead of having a straight line across the top of your fabric, you could have an arc.
Right.
So going off the corners. And again, like you said, just pop it on your face and just measure it. And then I might say, okay, pin it into place and just adjust it and keep trying it on and fitting it then to you. So it's sort of how you might make a bodice in a dress, for example. Keep playing, keep pinning, and then just adjust it to your face.
To how it suits you.
Yes, exactly. And then you can try it on, and then you can pin it into place, and then you can hand sew it with a basting stitch if you wanted to, which is just a very big hand stitch, and then try it on, and then adjust and tweak accordingly. So you can really make them yours and personalize your face.
That applies whether you're hand sewing or machine sewing. If you do that basic big stitch, the basting stitch, and then that means that you can then fiddle around, and also your arning is going to stay in place. It's also much easier if you put it down. I know that thing, if I think it's a shortcut not to tack something together, and then I get tired or stop or get distracted, you always come back and you're like, blast, why didn't I tack it?
I know, and it is a really painful step. Like, I always skip it, but it's so worth doing if you want a really good fitting one. And especially if we're going to be in lockdown for a bit longer, it's really important to make sure it is.
I think one of the routes to not being in lockdown, if I'm correct in this, is everyone being responsible, wearing masks when it's necessary, doing the right thing. So, it's one of our steps to back to normality. Joanna Dennis, who was the one who asked about the nose, said, thanks. A friend used a paperclip, but I don't know how she did it. Now I know what she's talking about. Joanna, thank you for that. What she's talking about is the way of just having something which pinches around the nose. Now, I'm sure what she means with the paperclip is that she probably unbent the paperclip, put it on that top seam. Zeena, will you show us what?
In that very top seam here,
just placed it there to give that little pinch, because the shop bought mask that I've got, which is has that kind of pinch thing, and that bit of metal. It's rather like wired ribbon, isn't it?
It is exactly like that, or a pipe cleaner.
Yes, that's a really good idea. That's a very good idea.
Good one.
Yes. I mean, the thing about it is that obviously it means that you couldn't put it in the machine. You'd have to hand wash it. But that's not so hard, because you could just hand wash, wash it quickly in the sink with, super hot water, and then pop it up. Look. Okay. Right.
Loads of questions.
I have seen advice to pop in a filter, are they specific medical filters, or will a certain type of reusable fabric act as a filter?
Now, this is what I mentioned earlier. So you can have a little channel and pop a filter in. Now, I think you need to buy a medical filter really for it to do the trick. But I have heard of people popping in fabric inside that they can wash and reuse. Yeah.
I think the key to masks is to wash them, isn't it? To wear them and then to wash them. And so making masks, making quite a few masks that you can take out every day and wash them. It's a funny thought, the thought of the country's washing lines having pants and socks and masks. It's part of the
new helping our laundry situation, is it?
So, at least I don't think one would have to iron them. I think ironing masks would be a bit like ironing socks and pants. You'd probably draw the line at ironing your mask.
I think you can get away with it. And also, if you do make them out of silk or something nice, you're only going to want to hand wash it quickly anyway, and it should dry really quickly. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's good.
What's the next step, Zeena?
So I've forgotten where I got up to, but so you're going to fold your edges, all of your raw edges, into the wrong side of the fabric, and then you're going to pin very carefully in place. If you are a perfectionist, you are going to tack and make sure you hand sew all of these edges into place. But I usually just whiz it straight onto the sewing machine. If I was making one for a friend or my family, I'd be much more precious about it. But this one is for me. So just folding in the raw edges is enough. So I would go around all of those edges. So do all 4. And then you're going to create a little channel for your elastic. So what I've done is just fold over 1.5 centimeters to create a channel that I'm then going to stitch down the very edge, and then I'm going to feed my elastic through the channel.
Oh, I see. So your elastic goes the whole way around. It's not just sewn on the 2 ends.
No, so you can do it in 2 different ways. So actually I've sewn that one on the ends just to show you. So that's a really quick way, but it's not as neat. No. So if you do the channel version, and also when you have a channel, it's a little bit more fitted because the elastic comes together a little bit.
See that? Yes. So it would fit better around here. Yeah.
Exactly, especially so I think it's just a bit nicer if you're doing it for your kids. That might be a nice way to do it, just with the channel. You do need a little bit more elastic though, so that's the only problem. And the other thing I've been using, I've got loads of hair ties and elastic bands, so you can actually use hair ties and elastic bands if you don't have any elastic.
Well, okay, so this is what happened. So I've been putting together a little pile of stuff that I'm going to use for making masks. But of course, like you, dark hair bands. So I want to go out and buy some of those blonde hair bands, the ones, because I'm using quite, paler colours for my masks, and obviously paler. I mean, it is an important item, a mask, and one shouldn't obsess about it quite so much. But as you say, we're going to be wearing them. They're going to be part of our outfits for a long time. No one long. So they're a big deal.
Not?
Yeah.
Make it fashion. The funny thing I've been talking about with some of my friends is our eye makeup game. We've been putting on a bit more eye makeup when we go to the shops because we're wearing a mask.
Yes, no, I think you're probably right. I have recently started using a brilliant product for my eyebrows. Having not, I didn't get into the whole brow thing, but now I have.
Now that's it, and there are hairstyles to accommodate your face mask. It's all happening.
It's a whole new world. So, Zeena, you and Zach don't have any kids at the moment, and so you've been in lockdown, just the two of you. But how have your family and friends who do have, small people in the house been coping with lockdown?
Gosh, it's been really difficult. I can't imagine how hard it is to do your job, look after the house, and look after children. It's, and homeschool as well. I don't know how you've been doing it. It's such a lot to do, isn't it?
Homeschool is a problem because one's always trying to encourage the children not to be on screens all the time, but they go from being on the screens for homeschooling to then being on the screens to communicate with their friends. And I think that's one of the hardest things for a lot of families is that the children love their mums and dads, but certainly at particular ages that my kids are now, 11 and 13, they really rate time with their mates, and they're really missing out on that. And it's difficult to motivate them, keep up with the schoolwork, just the whole thing. And you sort of, it's the sociable aspect of school, as well as the fact that they're out of the house and they're not underfoot and everything. I think for a lot of people, particularly those who don't have any outdoor space, there's been something sort of strangely cruel about how amazing the weather has been, because in one respect it's kind of encouraged people to sit outside more in the early days when that probably wasn't a wildly good idea. Sorry, see that terrible yawn. And but at the same time, it must be really difficult for people who've longed to be outside to see the beautiful weather.
I think so, yeah.
It's really hard with young kids. That entertaining them is really, really difficult, and particularly if let's say you've got a tiny one, then a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old. Homestart are particularly good. They do a lot of work with people who have, let's say, twins. Twins can be a terrible shock. Obviously, a wonderful blessing, but a terrible shock. And if you've already got, say, 2 little ones, and suddenly you've got tiny twins, it can really tip you
full on, isn't it?
Yeah, it's full on. And if you are trying at the best of times, getting twins dressed and up and out the house is difficult. But when you actually can't, you can only take them somewhere once a day, and you're trying to watch the other 2 at the same time, it can just be really overwhelming.
Really overwhelming. And I've got a friend who's a single mum as well, so it's even harder for her. So she's trying to juggle full-time work. She's looking after the 2 kids. One has learning difficulties, and so it's a very challenging time for those guys. I can imagine something like Homestart makes such a difference to those kinds of families.
No, it really does, and their work is amazing. And just that, because obviously at the moment some of the volunteers can't go into the home, but they are there on the phone, and they do, as I said, they're dropping food around, they're running errands, they're able to drop key things. I mean, I can't imagine what it would be like to be with a tiny baby and suddenly to realize that you've run out of nappies.
Oh my God.
It's kind of one of those nightmares. You were just like, what do I do? How do I go and get stuff? Is there a danger? Will there be a queue? Will people judge me for coming with a child? Because I did read reports in the early days about people saying, well, you shouldn't bring your children shopping. But
yes, I saw that. But how would they do it otherwise?
If you're a single mum, of course you have to take your child shopping. But also, if you're the caring parent, whether you're the mum or dad, and the other carer is working full time, then of course you're going to say, please take the kids to the shop. I'm trying to get some work done. it's really difficult to juggle all of that.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's full on.
We are in a minute, we're going to see some photos of what people have been crafting during. The sad thing is that we can't
see them.
Can't see those photos because you and I have each other on screen and we're chatting. But if experience of when we did the craft show is anything to go by, people are amazing. Absolutely.
Amazing. God, they're incredible. Crafting has just been a real lifeline at the moment for lots of people because of the benefits to mental health. It's just, and also it's good to get off screen. I don't know about you, but I'm sort of on screen all day long, a lot more than I was before lockdown. It's exhausting. I've got what are they calling it? Zoom. I've forgotten about it. But it's just overwhelming.
So much. But in this case, the screen is doing us a huge favour because it's us to talk about the COVID-19 emergency appeal that Home Start have got going. And you and I can chat, and hopefully we can raise awareness and raise funds for Home Start. So it's such a double-edged sword because we've all had to learn to adapt. We have a picture of a macrame plant pot. I love macrame.
It's so addictive, isn't it?
Addicted. We did a pinecone wreath, pom-pom wreath. Colour in the dots kitchen towel.
Oh wow, that sounds amazing.
Sounds brilliant.
That sounds so good.
And chalking the garden shed.
What's that?
What is that? Is that using the garden shed as a blackboard? Is that doing homeschooling outside with the side of the garden shed?
Yeah, maybe that is it.
Makes perfect sense. Yes. Using the garden shed as a giant blackboard.
Oh, how lovely.
That is fantastic. Oh, no.
Everyone's so creative.
Everyone is so creative. And everyone is finding bits of themselves which they hadn't recognized.
Yeah, I think so too. Definitely in my friends, they've been asking me how to make things, what to do, where to look, where to read, what tutorials to watch. It's really lovely to see.
I love this one. Have you seen this, Anita? Air dry and home painted plant pots that match nails.
Oh my gosh.
That is fantastic. Do send it in if you've got any pictures. Do send them in to Home Start on any social media platform that suits you. I know some people you can find Home Start on Facebook, you can find Home Start on Instagram, you can find Home Start on YouTube and Twitter. Whatever your medium is, if you've got a picture of a craft that you've been doing at home, please send it in because there's nothing that is more cheering than seeing what everybody's been up to. Now, we have, so let's get on, Zeena, with the mask because I know what'll happen. We'll chat about crafts and we won't.
We won't finish it. So actually, while we've been talking, I've just hand stitched my channel and I've threaded my elastic into that channel just to show you guys how to do it. But it's really simple. You just knot the end and then you feed it back inside to hide it away. And you don't need to have a sewing machine. So the idea is that these are really easy to make. You use some fabric you have at home, whether it is an old t-shirt or an old shirt, and you can use, hand sew or use elastic bands or an old hair tie to create. So it's so super easy. And then all you do is exactly the same thing along the top, bottom, and then your other channel. And you've basically pretty much done it. So I'll carry on.
That is fantastic. So if you were going to do the one with the pleats, Zeena, you would tack in the pleats the same.
I would. So I would do the pleats before I stitch my channel. So I've got another piece of fabric. So I will do it right at the beginning and I would fold and pleat. So I've got a lovely, beautiful, about 1 centimetre of depth. And I would iron over the top just to make sure I press it into place so it's really nice and flat and doesn't move anywhere. And then I would just tidy my seams away and fold them inside and stitch along the top and then each side. So I've got the pleats into that fabric. Hopefully that makes sense.
I would remind everyone that if you're struggling to find elastic, if you've got anything in the house which you're about to chuck away, someone has grown out of, that you don't use anymore, don't do it without taking the elastic out. Because so many things have got elastic in them and we just get rid of them.
They do.
Think, oh, blast, I could have used that. You know, no one will know if you're walking around with a mask which is held on with your husband's pant elastic. They just wouldn't know. Would know.
I've actually got some, I was going to do some bra making. I've got some underwear elastic here that I was going to use, but it's actually quite pretty. It's got a lovely frilly edge.
That's perfect.
That would be really nice.
Oh, and look, Yvonne on Instagram has sent a picture of all the fat courts she has ready and waiting to make face masks. She is selling them and donating the money to Homestart. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you. So I am actually, in a minute, I know someone's going to send me a message with Yvonne's Instagram tag. So I'll be able to read that out so that if anyone can buy her masks. All sorts of people are making stuff, as we know, for our key workers, and people have been making scrubs and all sorts. But making masks and selling them from Homestart sounds like a really good idea to me. So Yvonne is VEW Creations, at VEW Creations. Thank you, Yvonne, so much. That is the kind of initiative that we really need.
That's amazing. So lovely. Especially you need a few, don't you? You need one for every day of the week.
I mean, when we're going back to work, we'll need a sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday mask. And then if you go out at the weekends, if you're on public transport, I think from the 15th of June, it's a requirement that you wear a mask on public transport. And it seems to me that if they want you to do it from the 15th of June, probably a good idea to do it as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think so. Like you say, it's protecting everybody else and you know, not perpetuating the lockdown. So win-win.
Oh, now this is interesting. Yesterday we had the lovely Tom and Kerry from Snow Winds on. Daughter Ray has asked her mother to make an Arsenal homemade mask. And lovely Kerry has said, Tom and I are so grateful to Homestart for asking us to be involved in raising funds for such a wonderful charity. They were fantastic yesterday. But I have to say, Zeena, much as I do adore seeing Tom's fantastic snow windows, I'm also very inspired because I've been putting aside all this stuff thinking I've got to start making. But it's really interesting when you see someone doing it and you're just reminded it isn't difficult.
It's not. It's so easy.
And anyone out there, I know how it is on lockdown. Everyone thinks, you know, oh, so-and-so's making sourdough, or so-and-so's doing this on Instagram, or sometimes the world can seem a place full of other perfect people. But actually, we all have some sewing equipment somewhere, even if it's one of those little ones from a hotel or motel that's in that drawer in the kitchen that you never threw out, or something that, you know, all sorts of things. Even I once got a little tiny sewing kit in a cracker. And I think that it's just great to get on with it.
Yeah.
Now, sadly, we can't see all these fantastic pictures that people are sending in and their craft. Neither can we, Zeena, see what's below.
No.
But I know that the Just Giving link is below us, and I have got. I was just going to tweet the Just Giving link again. I think I put that in drafts. So it's just really important to just remember that what Homestart do makes a real difference. It makes the world a difference. Yesterday evening, after I chatted to Tom and Kerry on Twitter, I just said, if you're a Homestart volunteer or you are someone who's benefited from Homestart's help, will you just send me a few tweets telling me about your personal experience? And I got loads of people getting in touch just saying, Homestart made all the difference. Homestart saved my life. Homestart rescued me. And it really is the case that the work that Homestart do, particularly at the moment, particularly for isolated and vulnerable families. I mean, we were talking earlier about, I was saying, you know, the children want to see their mates, but that's well for my children. They have 3 square meals a day, but for a lot of our country's most vulnerable parents, the number one meal happened at school. And if those kids aren't going to school, that number one meal is missing. And even a small donation to Home Start can make all the world of difference to a family. So the Just Giving link is there. I'm going to put it on my Twitter. There's lots of different ways of finding it. Oh, look, Caroline Wallace is also raising money for Home Start by making her own face masks.
Oh, amazing.
Everyone is at it.
Amazing. They're so easy to make. You know, you could sell them to your neighbours, everybody.
Everybody. It's fantastic. Now, hair ties are a good way of doing the elastic, as we mentioned. Yeah. Is there anything else we can think of?
Well, if you don't have any elastic at all, you don't have any hair ties, you don't have any elastic bands, you can actually create some out of your fabric. The only thing is you need a longer piece of fabric. So what I would do is either cut this into strips, stitch it together so they were really long, and then fold it over, and then fold it over again so that you hide the seams on the inside, and you can create lovely fabric lengths to tie, fabric ties.
That's really clever. And also any material what's the most stretchy material? I suppose t-shirt material, anything that's, you know, the more elastic it's got in it, the better. So
yes, the more elastic the better.
Oh, someone has said that they've also used a shoelace. Fantastic.
Oh, brilliant. That's a genius idea.
Someone has also said Zeena has been so inspirational, and I have to say I've always thought that from when we first.
Oh, that's so nice.
Inspiration. I have to say that rick-rack on it, is it a blouse or a dress?
It is a blouse. It's a collar, and it's actually a Liberty print as well.
I'm a big fan of rick-rack, but mega rick-rack like
so
that.
Nice. But you could put rick-rack on your mask, Kirstie.
You could. Actually, I've got some rick-rack, funnily enough, in my sewing box, which I've been wanting to find something for. You're very right. I could have.
I know.
Yeah, I could have.
You
could do a bit of, if you did have a machine, there's nothing to stop you putting patches on your mask or smiley faces or, you know, I think that a friendly mask, a cheerful mask goes a long way. You know, I've often worried about masks that we're losing smiles with masks. And then people have said to me, you smile with your eyes, and which is true, absolutely.
Yeah.
That communication is very important. And a lot of people have commented that one of the good things about lockdown is that people have been smiling at each other in the street, and the fact that we have to do a little bit of dance to go around people, and there seems to be more communication, and you could be fearful of losing that with a mask. And I think having a cheerful mask or doing something special to it would really cheer people.
Yeah, you could embroider them as well. You could personalize them with initials so that if you have the same fabric for everyone, you can set them apart. So I might put a little Z on mine.
Oh my God, but you're two Zs.
Oh yeah, so it wouldn't actually, I'd have to.
Zeena, you're about to marry someone called Zach. I have to tell you, I don't want to be the first to tell you this, but you are
we're really obsessed with Zs. We collect them. We've got lots of vintage ones everywhere. So I wouldn't be able to write. I'd have to write my full name.
Now, if anyone out there's got any questions for Zeena, do send them in.
Yeah,
any questions, just post them up because we can answer them. Carol, who works at Home Start, has an embroidered Home Start logo.
Well, that's just lovely.
That is really nice. Yeah, that is really, really, really nice.
Absolutely beautiful.
Your wedding will have to have a lot of Zs in it, Zeena.
It will, and it's going to have a lot of handmade things.
No, actually, funnily enough, it has always slightly amused Zach. The Zach and Zeena thing has always amused our office. They're always
meant to be.
Meant to be. Totally meant to be. And I'm just trying to think with the masks, what else could one do? Really, as long as it doesn't prevent it being washable, the world's your oyster.
Absolutely fine. Yeah. I've seen some people making a crochet version of a mask. Have you seen those? No. Yeah.
Add an inner, as long as you have fabric inside, yes, you could have it. I mean, it'll be interesting as the weather gets colder, what people do about masks.
Face warmers.
Yeah. absolutely.
You could also, you could have them. You could be very clever and Velcro them together, and so they're detachable, and you can wash the inside layer. So they're only having to change the inside layer every time.
Yes. Now it's interesting because I said at the beginning of this that I was planning to use some old shirts that are in the attic, which I didn't want to chuck out.
No.
But I think, I mean, just trying to think of it, one sleeve would certainly be enough for a mask, wouldn't it? Because what did you say, 25 by 15?
Yes, absolutely. It's a really small square, actually.
You think of a shirt, an old shirt, you could have one sleeve would make one mask, one sleeve would make another, one side, 6. Yes, you could make 6.
You get loads. I think just out of the back of the shirt, you'd get about 6.
Oh, really? Yeah, no, you're right. Because if you twisted it the other way, yes, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
So no. So an old shirt, I think, would be a good start.
I think so, and it's the right kind of fabric as well.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So that would be a good thing. Old pajamas.
Old pajamas. That's a great idea. Yeah.
So do you know, Zeena? I can't believe this. Do you know? Have you looked at the time?
Oh my God!
No. Wow. Sorry, it's quite thrown me. The sort of liveness of this is part of the fun of it. But then you're like, holy Moses. So we should be just talking about wrapping up, talking about the Just Giving page and how much we are desperate at Home Start to raise £5,000 this week. It's a target that we've set, and we're very, very, very keen to hit it, because that would help 300 to 400 families, which I think is testament to the work that Home Start do and how many volunteers they have and how much happens through people's kindness and energy that they can make £5,000 go that far to help that many families.
That's incredible.
But also what I find about Home Start is once you know about it, you follow it. You discover you have a friend who's a volunteer. You discover you have a friend who's been helped by Home Start. You sort of develop this relationship, and then you really understand. Oh, now look, some final messages before we wrap up. Joanna Dennis, I've seen masks made out of socks, but Zeena's are nicer.
Oh, thank you.
Which indeed they are. They are really, really much nicer.
More fun.
And I'm going to be quite disciplined about using what's in the attic. And definitely, I love the idea of having matching, to any dresses. Oh, what's that?
I completely forgot to say. So you could use a tea towel. I've got an old tea towel that I was going to chop up, because they get a bit worn out after a while.
Yeah, they do.
So I was going to dye this one just with some natural dye. So if you save up your avocado seeds, you need about 10 of them, and you boil them up in a pan, and then you can drop your fabric in, and it turns it pink.
It turns it pink. The other thing I'm obsessed by at the moment, which we did on the cross show, is turmeric dyeing.
Yes.
With that turmeric, you get that really bright
yellow,
smiley yellow, which is really fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's also a great thing for the kids. They love doing tie dyeing. So you can have tie dye mask. I'm so old fashioned, but I know there are lots of different ways in which the kids sell things online. And I know there are kids I know who are doing tie dye t-shirts and masks.
That's so good. Yeah.
Anyone out there who's got teenagers who buy and sell kids online, if you want to sell some tie dye masks for Home Start, we'd be thrilled to bits. Absolutely thrilled to bits. Molly has said, I'm so inspired to make my own face mask this weekend. Well, I'm making my own face mask before this weekend, I think. I've got all my stuff together. You've pushed me over the edge, Zeena.
You've got to do it now, Kirstie. You've got
to do it. Well, I'm thrillld that we had the big news about you and Zach getting married. That is really, really, really exciting.
Very exciting.
And that will be the world's crafted wedding.
Yes, it will. And we'll try our best.
and I can't thank you enough for supporting Home Start and for being so inspiring and just reminding us that it's really easy to make your own mask, and it will cheer people up. It will I think that sense of community, a lot of people are fearful at the moment. That's one of the things I've been hearing a lot from Homestart, is that the vulnerable families are worried about going out. They're worried about that first step out into an altered world. And if you've got a cheery face mask on, then you're going to make other people smile, and you're going to, it's a positive thing. So
it really is. Yeah.
It's all good. And I'm just pleased that on our second Homestart chat of the week, the dog didn't come in and bite me, which is yesterday.
Thank goodness.
No children coming in and no dogs. And tomorrow I might be wearing a different dress, which would be good. But I'm very jealous of your Rick Rack. So so it's funny with the whole thing, because it's so live. I think there's a point when it all kind of comes to an end. But before it does, Zeena, will you just tell us, have you got any projects lined up? Is it all dependent on what happens with lockdown and the COVID crisis? What was going to happen next?
So, lots of wedding planning and lots of crafty content creation, but we're actually moving flat. So there'll be lots of interiors DIYs coming up on my workload, but I'm also going to be making some dresses and printing fabric still. So there's lots coming up and lots to do.
There's lots going on. And have you, dare I ask, because obsessed, have you bought something new?
So I've been supporting small businesses quite a lot, actually, and a couple of my friends have vintage shops that they're selling online. So they didn't actually sell beforehand, so you'd have to go into the shop, but they've been so clever and created a whole online shop, and you can actually buy through Instagram. So I've been buying secondhand online.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, really good.
I think it's going to be an absolute bonanza in the charity shops when lockdown lifts a bit and we can get out, because I think loads of people, I've certainly had major chucking out sessions.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got 2 sons, 2 stepsons, and I'd kept every single piece of clothing, everything. So
wow.
Major chuck out.
Yeah.
So anyone in the Devon area who's got a child from the age of 1 to 7, don't buy anything, because
it's coming.
Actually, you know what? Funnily enough, I should actually contact my local Homestart and find out if they have any families. I mean, I don't know. They might not be interested in my secondhand boys' clothes, but I did always really keep everything really, well for all the children. And I don't know why I was holding on to it all. It's because we've got a big attic space here.
Yeah, and it's very special as well.
It's very special. Yeah, but anyway, it's going to go to a better home now. I want to find.
Oh, how lovely!
And I think, I think they'll be the mother of all car boot sales when all this finishes.
Oh my God, I cannot wait. They're my favourite thing to go to. You find the best things there.
You do. You absolutely do. You've got lots of the usual projects, and you're just continuing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've actually been okay. I've been so lucky not too affected. And if anything, it's a bonus because I get to have a bit more time to create and dress make and do all of those lovely things like sorting out the kitchen cupboards.
No, I did that absolutely with bells on, but it got to a point, I think, where the children thought they were going to be on the washing line. I'm just trying to. Just so many things. You just think, have I mentioned the Just Giving page, which is really important. And the fact that what I always find is that I'm not, for example, I'm not a Facebook person, but if you're a Facebook person, you can find Homestart on Facebook. You can find Homestart all over the place. And also, to anyone out there who's just joined us and isn't familiar with Homestart, you will have a local Homestart. Someone sent me a tweet today saying, oh, my daughter's been suffering with postnatal depression. I didn't know that this was something that Homestart had experience of. And if you know someone who needs Homestart's help, as much as if you know someone who could benefit from your time, your energy, or your donation to the Just Giving page. Once you know about Homestart and what they do, it's fantastic. You just get out there.
Yeah. Such a brilliant charity.
No, it's absolutely important. Right. I think we should just wrap up now. It's really difficult.
It's hard, isn't it? Oh.
Say, Zeena Shah, thank you so much for showing us how to make a mask, for being so kind and inspiring and upbeat, and such a craft inspiration. And I want to say,
thanks for having me.
Thank you. Send my love to Zach, and I want to tell everybody who is watching, the viewers, tune in tomorrow night, and because we're doing this all week at 8 p.m. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed this and if you feel that you're inspired to make a mask, don't forget to do a donation to Homestart, because every penny you give to Homestart will go so much further than you could possibly imagine. Night, and lots of love.